Emily had always believed life would eventually sort itself out. She grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, with the quiet assumption that things would fall into place the same way they seemed to for everyone else she knew. She told herself that when the time was right, the perfect job would appear, the right partner would show up, the right opportunities would knock, and somehow the broken pieces of her life would magically fit together without her having to push too hard. But now, at 29, sitting alone in her tiny apartment, after another exhausting day at a job she hated, staring at bills she didn't know how to pay, watching messages go unanswered by friends who used to be close, she felt a sinking truth she had tried to avoid for years. Nothing was changing. Not because life was unfair, but because she wasn't doing anything to change it. She waited for her parents to guide her financially, but they barely managed themselves. She waited for her ex to come back and fix things, but he moved on long before she accepted it. She waited for the world to recognize her potential, but she never showed it anywhere. She waited for signs, for luck, for some cosmic permission to start living seriously. And the waiting became her trap. One night, after crying in the bathroom quietly so her neighbors wouldn't hear, she opened her laptop, hoping for distraction, and instead stumbled into a documentary about people who rebuilt their lives from nothing. Like the woman in Detroit who left a toxic marriage with only $40 and went on to start a bakery that now employs dozens. Or the Brazilian man who slept on a sofa for years but eventually built a successful fitness channel, one push-up video at a time. These weren't miracles. They were people who decided, at some breaking point, that nobody was coming to save them. They saved themselves. The stories hit Emily harder than she expected, not because they were inspirational, but because they exposed her own pattern. She was living passively, waiting for life to change while refusing to move even a single step. She remembered how her grandmother used to say, "There's nothing more dangerous than waiting for someone else to build the life you want." And for the first time, the words felt painfully real. That night, lying in bed with her face still wet from tears, she whispered the sentence she had been avoiding for years. "No one is coming." And surprisingly, instead of fear, she felt clarity. A sharp, painful, liberating clarity. No one was going to hand her confidence. No one was going to build her career. No one was going to rescue her from loneliness. No one was going to decide her future for her. It was on her, completely. And as heavy as that truth was, it was also empowering. Because if no one was coming, then she no longer needed to wait. She could start. She could choose. She could build. The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual. Not because she was motivated, but because she couldn't unsee the truth anymore. She made coffee, opened her notebook, and wrote the simplest question she had ever asked. If help isn't coming, what can I do today? The answer wasn't dramatic. She didn't quit her job. She didn't create a business. She didn't turn into a new person. She simply applied for one better position. Then she cleaned her living room. Then she scheduled a therapy appointment. Then she unfollowed people who drained her mentally. Small, imperfect steps, but hers. And something inside her shifted. Each small action made her feel like she was finally holding the steering wheel of a life she had been letting drift for too long. She read about J.K. Rowling rebuilding her life as a single mother living on welfare before she became an icon. She watched interviews of women who left dead-end careers at 30 or 40 and reinvented their lives completely. She learned about ordinary people who refused to wait for the perfect moment and built their dreams out of the imperfect pieces they had. She realized strength wasn't loud. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't come with applause. Strength was doing things scared, doing things alone, doing things when no one believed in you, doing things anyway. Weeks passed and Emily started feeling something she had forgotten existed. Momentum. She got a job interview. She changed her resume. She started cooking instead of eating junk. She started taking evening walks instead of scrolling endlessly. She started saying no to people who had used her kindness. She stopped expecting someone to show up and make her life better. And as she stopped expecting others to save her, she began trusting herself more.